All right, so we left off the tutorial with a single matrix with no color, and we know that the data is working because it seems to make sense in here, but obviously this is not what you want to show the CEO. There's not a whole lot of insight in here. It's pretty dry, it's pretty number-based, and so forth. So let's start looking at the different ways we can visualize the information in here and how we can manipulate it. We're not going to go over everything perfectly. We're just going to do a broad overview, but hopefully it should help you kind of distinguish of some ways of working with this data. So notice the first thing I did was copy paste the data. So let's look at the data in another way. Here I'm going to click table instead of matrix. And I've already mentioned this in the previous video. When you do a table, it doesn't aggregate things. So see here, for example, it aggregates everything to Montreal to $7,000. Here, it just says Montreal, Montreal, Montreal. And so it doesn't do any aggregation when you're a table, which is why I love matrices, and so should you. But here it's good. We are seeing every single element. It's kind of the equivalent of just fully expanding this. And then, of course, we could start ordering this. I could order it per dates if I bring in the dates in here. Maybe sort by date or something. Okay, let's get rid of this table. We're going to copy this again, and let's see what it looks like as a stacked bar chart. So right now, it's showing us who's selling the most, and that's actually kind of interesting. Now it's doing a couple of weird things, combining two things in the x-axis. So I'm just going to focus on product price because that's the total sales really. I don't need the tooltip here, but notice how it's combining the store names. So the two employees in New York City are Johnny and Lucy, and we can see the information in a more useful way. So we're really seeing that Joy in Montreal is the one that is selling the most. And notice too, when I click on this data, it's going to filter the data in the matrix on the left. So if I fully expand this, I can just filter and look at Joy's data and start to see what her sales are. So it's a bit less overwhelming, and I can even click on New York City here so that it shows me both employees' total sales. Okay, that's interesting. Let's look at something else. Let's look at what is our most popular product and how much we're selling of all of these. So in here, I'm going to remove these elements, and I'm going to drag the product name as the y-axis. So blue bikes from 2023 is our most popular model. We're selling a bit of oil, not making that much money. And then the second most popular product is the red bikes. So already we're getting a bit more insight. Let's get some more insight in here. We'll actually keep improving our matrix, keep messing with the format a little bit. So notice how the names here are the original names, right? So that's not super friendly. What we can do is we can double click in here and just start renaming things. So if we hover, we see what the actual data is, staff name, but here it just says name. So let's just call it like employee. And here we'll say order number, let's say. Down here, we're going to rename this, just humanize it a little, product. We don't need the word name. And we're going to get rid of the idea of sum. It's just implied that it is a sum. Okay, already the data is starting to look a bit better. And what we can do is give some color coding. So I'm going to click on the little arrow here, go to conditional formatting, and I do this to pretty much all of my data that has numbers in it. I'm just going to select a minimum and a maximum. I'm going to say don't format it if there's no values. And then I'm going to click OK. So we see here already there's some data jumping at us. We sold 3 items of oil, 4 blue bikes. Let's do the same thing for the prices. That's going to start giving us some nice insight into our pricing chart down here. So same thing, light blue, dark blue, no format when there's nothing. Let's click OK. And already we are seeing, oh, look, this is a big sale, represents a huge amount of our total sales here. And you'll notice that when you drill up and down, this is going to aggregate. So once again, this is not a huge variation, but we're seeing quite clearly that Joy, once again, is the one that made the most sales. And we see this information across the two charts. So I'm going to take this particular chart and copy it. And I'm going to select a pie chart. So already this is showing us the data in a different way. And I'm going to modify this a little bit. I'm going to say, don't show me the legends, but in the detail, I want you to show me everything. And there's a couple of things I'm going to change here. I don't need the 2 decimal values in here on the percentages. So I'm just going to set that to 0. And the next thing we're going to do is actually change the title, right? So we're going to say products, or let's say product sales. And I'm going to copy this. And notice how I'm going between the format your visual and the data tab. So in here, instead of the product name, I'm going to put the staff name, the employee name up here. And now we're seeing the sales per employee. And let's do that one last time. And in here, instead of the product sales, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the location. So the store name is what we're going to drag into our legend. And now we are seeing a lot of different data. So as usual, when we click on this, it's going to affect the other charts. And, you'll see this later on, but if we go into the format tab, we can actually edit how these interactions work. So I've clicked here, edit interaction, and I can decide it could actually filter this table instead of highlighting. So if I set these to filter, when I select from this table, now it's showing me 100% of the data instead of highlighting it, right? So we look at New York City, we still see both Lucy and Johnny's data. Whereas if I was highlighting here, it's not the same kind of insight. We are highlighting versus filtering. So filtering in this case is more useful to see what's being sold in New York and who's selling things in New York. So Johnny has a bit more sales than Lucy in this case. Okay, so we've gone a pretty good length in showing, we did the really boring data transformation import phase. We did a little data model up here. We saw that the data was working and we found ways of showing the data in different ways. Now, let's just do a really quick recap of the 4 environments of Power BI. There's the report view. This is where you work. You're going to be really working with these tabs here. So filters, visualization, and data. There's a table view, which is how you can look at your data in an extremely raw way. You can see here all of the types of data you can have. And in here, you can also change the data type, which you can do in Transform Data, but you can also do it from here. Then you got our model view, which is where we do our data modeling. This is actually a new tab, a new work environment based on DAX. We're not going to look at that today, but as you get very advanced, you can start looking at it. And then the 4th environment was Transform Data, or what we call Power Query. So we've done a lot of Power Query in the last video. As you understand, it's really the most important step, right? We start here, we ingest, we fix, we really twist the data into a pretzel so that it fits our needs. And then we connect it in here. And once things are connected, it's all going to be talking to each other inside of the report view. So I hope these 2 videos give you a good little foundation of understanding how all of these weird, scary menus talk to each other. And we're going to be diving into more functions of Power BI. We're going to start getting into the data model of Vim. As you can imagine, creating a data model for BIM has been extremely complicated because there's no precedent for it. And so we're really proud of our data model and we've done a lot of work on it. So it's quite important to learn it. And then once you've learned the Vim data model, you should be able to really interact with it in a way that is going to be drag and drop as simple as possible for most of your interactions. All right, that's it for today's tutorial. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.